Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, whenever you are. Hello, thank you for watching my videos. It's Mike. It's April 2nd, 2009, and the G20 meeting has concluded. Now, I was waiting to do this video to see how it was presented on the television news over here in England, and also to read up on a couple of newspapers and see what they said of it. Now, I have in my hands here the official communique, all 29 paragraphs of it. So I thought I would just highlight for you people out there what's actually in this. Now, of course, the mainstream press is saying, "Oh, it's great, it's wonderful." Okay. Second paragraph. We start from the belief that prosperity is indivisible, that growth to be sustained has to be shared, that our global plan for recovery must have at its heart the needs and jobs of hard-working families, not just in developed countries, but in emerging markets and the poorest countries of the world, too. So what does this mean to you and me? Well, it means most of the stimulus is aimed at developing countries. And there won't be any more stimulus money going to developed countries, unless, of course, the developed countries do it themselves, which is unlikely. It's going to be kind of difficult to raise any more money. However, you never know. They might just try that. More importantly, though, paragraph 5. Halfway through it says, and to use additional resources from agreed IMF gold sales for concessional finance for the poorest countries. Okay, so the IMF's going to sell its gold, or some of its gold, and give the money to the poorest countries. Now, lots of other stuff in here about growth, restoring growth. That's all great, yes, However, paragraph 12, we will conduct all our economic policies cooperatively and responsively with regard to the impact on other countries. We will support now and in the future to candid, even-handed and independent IMF surveillance of our economies. So the International Monetary Fund will be monitoring everyone's economies. This is something entirely new. So the International Monetary Fund now becomes an international watchdog over the economies of the world. But it gets better, don't worry. We will take action to build a stronger, more globally consistent supervisory and regulatory framework for future financial sector, which will support sustainable global growth, and serve the needs of businesses and citizens. So that's paragraph 13. So, they're going to create a new financial authority, a financial regulator. Global regulation. Now, just to stop for a second, the European Union basically started out as a sort of a trading agreement between various countries within Europe. And then there was, of course, the introduction of the euro to further strengthen the power of the EU, and now, of course, they're really pushing the Lisbon Treaty, which will effectively create a constitution for the European Union and federalize most of the functions currently held in countries within the European Union. Paragraph 15. To establish a new financial stability board. Now, I warned you of this. You're not going to see this hyped up in the press. With a strengthened mandate as a successor to the Financial Stability Forum, including all G20 countries, FSF members, Spain, and the European Commission. Okay, FSB should collaborate with the IMF to provide early warning of macroeconomic and financial risks. Extend regulation and oversight to all systemically important financial institutions, instruments, and markets. So the Financial Stability Board will be a regulator for all the banks, the inter-country loans, and all the markets. So effectively, the FSB will become a supervisor to the SEC, Securities Exchange Commission, and of course the FSA over here in England, and all the other various regulatory systems that are located in various countries. So essentially this is a global financial regulator. Starting to see the big picture. Take action once recovery is assured to improve the quality, quantity, and international consistency of capital in the banking system. So basically the FSB will be dictating how much capital all the banks in the various countries around the world must maintain. In future, regulation must prevent excessive leverage and require buffers of resources to be built up in good times. Well, that will be some time from now, but never mind. to endorse and implement the FSF's tough new principles on pay and compensation. So basically anyone working within the financial industry will suddenly find that there are new restrictions placed upon their compensation and how they get paid and how much they get paid and how many bonuses they get. Of course, that's just a headline thing, headline grabber. Although buried down at the bottom here, they are saying that extend regulatory oversight and registration to credit rating agencies to ensure they meet international code of good practice, particularly to prevent unacceptable conflicts of interest. Well, at least they're paying attention to the fact that Standard & Poor's and all the rest of them were fiddling. We instruct our finance ministers to complete the implementation of these decisions in line with the timetable set out in the action plan. Now, of course, I couldn't find the action plan on the website, nor could I find the document mentioned here in the beginning of paragraph 15, strengthening the financial system. So they've issued a declaration, but I can't find it, but I'm sure it'll pop up eventually. Basically, what they're saying is they're going to create a new regulatory system, a new financial regulatory system, and the International Monetary Fund will be monitoring the economies of the world, while the FSB will be monitoring and regulating the financial system worldwide. It gets better, folks. The IMF, where's it getting this money from for this $1.1 trillion injection? Okay, well, some of it's coming from the member countries. However, we have agreed to increase the resources available to the IMF through immediate financing from members of $250 billion. Okay, so $250 billion of the money that the IMF is going to spend is coming from the countries that are work with the IMF. So UK, US, etc. Subsequently incorporated into expanded and more flexible new arrangements to borrow. So that's the name of it, new arrangements to borrow. That's what they're going to be calling this thing. Increased by up to $500 billion. So, okay, so the $250 billion to begin with is not the limit of it. There will be another $250 billion pumped in. Okay, so that's $500 billion. They're talking about $1.1 billion. Where's the rest of the money coming from? Well, $100 billion of it is coming from multilateral development banks, otherwise known as the World Bank, and there's also regional ones. There's the African one, Asian one, etc. However, the IMF is now creating a new flexible credit line. This sounds an awful lot like a standard loan that a bank would give. As opposed to the ridiculously complex rules and regulations the IMF generally imposes upon countries when they take money from the IMF, this new flexible credit line is much more like a, here, just have some money. No questions asked, pay us back when you can. Mexico is the first recipient of some of this money, $47 billion as of today. Finally, paragraph 19. It's buried in here. They don't want to highlight this, and you probably won't hear this in the press. We have agreed to support a general SDR allocation that will inject $250 billion into the world economy and increase global liquidity, and urgent ratification of the Fourth Amendment. Okay, now if you haven't studied the IMF, what the Fourth Amendment does is basically say the SDR can be used as a global currency. At the moment, it has the support of 74% of the voting members of the IMF. Now, part of the regulation and all the changes are going to be changing how much each country has authority-wise within the International Monetary Fund. More than likely, China and Russia will have an increased share. But more importantly, urgent ratification of the Fourth Amendment. Now, the Fourth Amendment has been held up by the United States. To be ratified, the United States would have to agree to this, and I've got a funny feeling they're about to do it. In the process, it will effectively create a new global currency called special drawing rights, these SDRs. Now, the SDR is made up of a basket of currencies at the moment. At the moment, it's dollar, yen, euro. It wouldn't surprise me if the renminbi and perhaps the ruble was added in. What's this going to do? Well, this will provide a mechanism for China to get rid of some of the junk they've got in US dollars. We will reform their mandates, scope, and governance to reflect changes in the world economy and the new challenges of globalization. And of course, further along, there are also restrictions with regards to the World Trade Organization, a call for ratification of the Doha round of negotiations, We will promptly notify the World Trade Organization of any such measures and call on World Trade Organization together with other international bodies within the respective mandates to monitor and report publicly on our adherence to these undertakings on a quarterly basis. So this is about protectionism. And basically, you're going to let the World Trade Organization start yelling if countries start becoming protectionist. Wonder what else they're going to do with them. So, we remain committed, paragraph 23, to reaching an ambitious and balanced conclusion to the Doha development round, which is urgently needed. They've agreed to reaching a conclusion. To achieve that, we are committed to building on the progress already made, including with regard to modalities, which is, of course, referring to the United States' reason for not getting into the Doha. So, you have a World Trade Organization that's going to be looking after all of the trade flowing around. Sounds very familiar to us in Europe, which is how the European Union came about. Then you're going to have a regulatory system, financial regulatory system, and a monitoring of the various economies of the world. Very similar to the European Monetary Union. And then pretty soon, coming down the road, as soon as the next big crisis comes, they're going to join them all together. And the SDR will become the global reserve currency. We reaffirm our commitment to address the threat of irreversible climate change, paragraph 28, based on the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities, and to reach agreement at the UN Climate Change Conference in Copenhagen in December 2009. That, of course, is just going to be a whole bunch of new taxes based on people actually breathing or doing anything. So there you go, folks. G20 meeting, not such a failure after all. All the plans of the elites are coming together in a dramatic fashion. It's not going to be highlighted on the news. But watch out for this word SDR, special drawing rights. It's going to take new importance very soon. And the FSB, Financial Stability Board. Imagine any other corporation. Of course, there's a board in charge, regulating all the banks across the world, making sure they're not messing with us. Goodbye, local sovereignty. Hello, world government. Not too long now, folks. Peace, love, understanding. Think about things. Bye.